It's your boy, Tri-Town Tory, coming to you live in the Northwest. And today's a very special episode of Tory Talk Podcast because I am now recording under an umbrella called the Tri-Cities Mixtape Podcast Network. And it's with my buddy, Miguel Ortiz. And he is with me today as a special guest. How are you doing today, Miguel?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Man, thank you, man. It's amazing the opportunity that we have to come and record our podcast with you in your studio, man.
I like being a passenger, man. Sometimes you don't want to drive, and you just want to just be along for the ride. So thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. And I enjoy being a passenger too. So we're going to both see if this Tesla can drive us while we... Right. But I'm going to tell you what, man. I've been dying to get back in the studio and start to record some stuff with the podcast. So now that we're back, I just want to let people know what's been going on with the podcast. And what it initially was is I started the podcast in 2020 because I wanted to always do this since 2012 or 2013 when I first discovered podcasting on YouTube. I was really into self-motivation podcasts, and I also like Joe Rogan's podcast where he would tackle a lot of different subjects, and it really opened your mind to things that maybe you were never going to think about. I remember writing lists of things that I had to look up after the episode, almost like I was doing my research and stuff.
Yeah.
But do you remember what first podcast that you ever tapped into? Like, it doesn't have to be a podcast. It could be like an online talk show or...
No, I think like way back in the day, I was listening to the Mark Maron. He was like one of the fucking pioneers, the WTF. Yeah, that was kind of in the early days. And yeah, I did listen to some early Rogan, and then Questlove Supreme, which I think has been around for maybe a good 7. Maybe not as old as some of the others, but that has been one of my, like, every week, subscribe and learn so much about hip hop, music, business, and creativity from all the great people he has on there.
Oh, fuck yeah. It's really interesting. They say that there's some huge number of podcasts that are created every single day, and that a lot of them don't even make it past, a month or so of being in existence. Right. But the good thing about Tory Talk Podcast is that we did it, 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago, and that we're still kicking. And,
right.
I appreciate everybody who's ever listened to the podcast because, as you know, the sound quality hasn't been the best because my whole idea was to do an efficient podcast. So I would just use my iPhone and I would use the voice memo when I was doing an interview, like I was a journalist doing a table interview. And what I would do is I would take that and I would do a light edit with the features that were in the voice memo, and then I would upload it straight to Anchor, and I would use the stock sounds that Anchor provided. And it was just about being minimalistic, being quick and easy, and still getting your message out. And the cool thing about that was that it really allowed us to showcase our own like communication chops as far as the production being minimalistic enough. It's kind of like when you have rappers who rap over stripped down beats, but they have like lyricism. Right. So they paint like beautiful canvases, right? My question to you is, do you have a favorite rapper right now? Because I want to see something. Is there a rapper right now that you're tapping into? It could be a new rapper. It could be an old rapper. It could be an international rapper. It could be like one of those rappers that does dance hall and raps. It could be anything. Is there somebody that you find yourself being like, oh, throw that on. I want to hear that.
Are you asking me specifically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
No, because you did it in a really cool way. Like you are like having a conversation with the audience. So I'm like, wait, is this, is this literal? But yes. Who have been fucking with rap lately? I'd say the last big, I guess, wave or somebody that popped up on my radar and I really got into is Lil Sims, and she's British, and I usually, be honest, man, no disrespect to UK or anybody, just I could never take rap in a British accent seriously. Right? It all sounds like that one fucking
Dizzy
that thing where the guy's like that it always just sounded corny shit like that. But like hearing Little Sims, the Simbi album specifically, I was like, oh shit, like she's got dope bars, great beat selection, and I wasn't taken out of it by the British accent as much as I am with literally anybody else who raps with an accent.
Do you think it was because of her perspective or her unique lyrics? What was it about her identity that allowed you to overlook that initial thing that you used to be?
Well, I just noticed that it sounded cool. I've never heard British rap sound cool, and she did. She wasn't, she had the same accent, same inflection that I've heard other British, artists use, but what she was saying, how she was saying it, it really spoke to me. And then but to be fair, I haven't given any other British lyricists a chance, or rappers.
See, I always follow the XXL and the Source, and Vibe and any other hip hop magazine. And Vibe's not really a hip hop magazine, but back then that was like our connection to what was really going on in the game. And I remember when they were trying to push like UK artists on American audiences initially, and I don't want that to sound as if it's a bad thing, but it's just being when you're a kid and you're becoming a rapper, it's just unique that they're trying so hard to make us listen to these rappers. And the first one that I remember was this guy named Dizzy Rascal. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember trying to get into his music, and I thought to myself, like, the beats are a little off.
Right.
Like, they sounded cool because they were like using, PlayStation sound effects, and I later came to find out that there's a sound from the UK that they specialize in called grime, I believe. Right. Yeah. So there's like all these different influences that we weren't accustomed to. They have their own fucking world over there.
Yeah, it's funny that they were inspired by like all the Chicago drill and shit, and
the more modern Britain.
No. That's what started the grime. Those kids were inspired by that shit, and then it came back here or whatever. There was some. I think it started like Chief Keef in that kind of era, that fucking grime shit. Like I think inspired a lot of, I guess, what now has become the bigger scene of that shit.
Yeah, not to correct you, but
I could be totally wrong.
Because check this out. This is how it really went down. Because it comes from like industrial. You know what I'm saying? Which is more like closer to like house,
techno,
right.
Euro,
so
shit, yeah.
It's almost as if somebody had that kind of sound kit and said, I'm gonna make American hip hop beats with these sounds, right? Because what we're talking about when we're talking about Chief Keef and drill, we're talking about an era of like 2011, 2012, when Chief was first coming out, right? And that influenced the UK drill.
Okay.
Yeah, which came later on. See, because the UK drill is a step away from the grime introduction of like a Dizzy Rascal or Lady Sovereign. Lady Sovereign is another one of that's who I was going to get to next, Lady Sovereign. What I thought about Lady Sovereign was she's really cute. She reminds me of like a Sporty Spice rapper. If you remember the Spice Girl.
Yeah, and I think she had a Jay-Z cosign back in the day too.
She had a Jay-Z cosign.
Yeah, which I mean...
That was everything.
Yeah.
But now that I look at it, Jay's always been my favorite rapper, but that was interesting that was like on his radar because, as of late, Jay's been under some heat.
Right.
So I hope that nothing ever comes of that. But also, here's a message to rappers. You need to be very careful what your intentions are when you work with any kind of any female rapper, any woman rapper. I'll tell you why. Because you could come off as somebody who's predatorial. And I would never want you guys to accidentally look predatorial because we are out here to create music, to create life. And if you do get a relationship out of a collaboration, that's awesome. But if anything else comes out of that way, you're going to be painted a certain way. And you need to be okay with that.
But I mean, not just that, but there is the power dynamic.
100%.
Because if you are in a situation where you're already an established artist, and this person is coming and they want to work with you, obviously they're going to want to stay in your good graces. And any attempt, even if you are just being nice or a little flirty or genuinely interested, the fact that there's an imbalance of power is something that sadly, I think a lot of men, do take advantage of.
Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up because without that part of it, it looks as if I'm trying to help people hide things. But what I want people to realize is dudes are really boneheaded when it comes to women, right? They might think that there's some fairy tale thing going on, but it could be 100% delusion. You want my evidence? When a woman sends a smiley face to a dude and the way that he acts, like, oh my God, she's into me. I think I got a chance. And it could just be that she's kind. And then you find out that men are so deprived emotionally of compassion and love from the opposite sex that they think like anything like that is a big fucking deal, right? And I might be speaking to a small group of individuals out there, but I would not be Tri-Town Tory helping you guys out if I didn't talk about the things that were kind of like, that's what I want to do. I want to break down the nuance of these things, and I want people to bring the conversation to me. So if we end up uploading this to a YouTube, or I know the Spotify has a comment section, I want you guys to start the conversation. I want you guys to speak with me and see if there's any flaws in my logic. And I also want to continue the conversation to be an advocate for those who need to speak up about things that are going on currently. That the power dynamic thing is very important for us to think about, because the power dynamic thing is what separates us from the Neanderthals. Okay? If you think about it, what we need to do is level out the playing ground where everybody has a chance and opportunities to do the things that they want to. There shouldn't be some sort of gate that we keep, because if you think about it, that's what the 90s and 2000s, and if you've been a rapper for that long, that's what we've been having to fucking deal with. 100%. Nobody could make it to become a superstar off talent because you had to fucking suck some, I don't want to say some gratuitous thing, because you never know, some children might watch this, but you had to do some, quid for quo situational style stuff, and that shouldn't be the case. That should never be the case. So what I want everybody to do is think about the dynamics that are going on musically with them, and think about it like, hey, is this fair? Is there something going on that is not okay? And how can I change this for myself? Because there's plenty of people out there that want to make music with you, and you don't have to compromise yourself in order to get that done. And that's just how I've been feeling in 2025, man, is that there's a lot that is going on in the world, and I don't think that people are having these conversations. What they're doing is they're picking sides in a culture war because they think that it's an unfair tug of war between men and women. That was a lot to say, but I have a lot of things that I want to get off my chest coming into this new year. And one thing that I want to do is I want to take down a lot of the old tropes that come with hip hop artists in the Tri-Cities specifically. Right. Today I posted on Facebook. Let me pull it out. I want to read it real quick, because it was something that I took to heart, and I wanted to see if anybody got offended with it, because if they did, then that would be interesting, and I would want to focus on them being upset about that. Okay. Too many weird dudes trying to turn their hometown into the 90s with gang violence and drug use they openly glamorize. I don't expect them to read this and reflect, but I do expect them to be treated accordingly by the people who have minds and hearts, because we've allowed degeneracy to control the youth for far too long. And what I mean by that is hip-hop has always had a safeguard in a sense where you are allowed to really just be a nasty individual, because you're marketing yourself to other nasty individuals. And I get it, sometimes it's just entertainment and you don't identify with the things fully that you listen to. But what I'm finding out in the world is if you share a meme, people think that that's your humor. And if that's the case, then we need to really evaluate what our internet presence is like and how we're approaching the world. I know that a lot of people might be kind of confused with what I'm talking about, but these kind of thoughts are going to be helping us reconfigure the way that we act online. As a young artist, because that's who I'm speaking to primarily, I'm going to be speaking to the young artists who want to create and who want to step into the world, which is now mainly digital. I want you guys to think about the things that we're talking about tonight. But I'm going to switch it up, and I'm going to move away from this serious topic a little bit, and we're going to get a little bit more fun. The reason why I brought up what's your favorite rapper is because I have a skill set where I can take any subject and I can digress the living, I'm going to cuss. Sorry, if you're under 18, I'm sorry. I can digress the living fuck out of something 100%. Right? And it always has some roundabout way of coming back and then having a whole symphony of thought. Right? And that might be the ADD, ADHD. I don't know. I've never gone to a doctor for that. But I did write a record called ADD. See how the segues work. And when I wrote that song for ADD, it was on my album called Mr. Northwest that I dropped in 2022. It was one of the 4 music videos that I shot. I also shot one for Hometown, and I shot that with Third Eye, who is a director over here in Tri-Cities. He usually does like commercial work with like import cars and businesses. He helps out businesses and stuff. His Instagram, I think, is Lion Eye Works. I'm gonna get that right, and I'm gonna put that into the credits. But I worked with him, and then I brought a young Roque onto the song. Roque, the Kick It Master. I did not know Roque before I reached out for him to do this record before. And when I reached out to him, man, my mind was blown. I couldn't believe that I found the rapper, or personally I found, because he already existed, he was making music, but the rapper that I would have listened to as a young guy. As a young kid coming into hip hop, I would have listened to this guy because he has amazing foresight, and he for how young he is, he sees so far into the future. And this dude plays chess with his moves, and he knows what the appetite is for his audience, and he knows how to make things look good on both coasts.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's working with a producer over there on the East Coast who's getting him pretty much in the network of the mixtapes and things that are going on out there. See, this is from my perception, because this is what I'm picking up from what he's doing, and he is what I would call the Tri-Cities best rapper.
Oh, for sure.
100%. Easily. He is the bar for what you need to beat in order for you to say that you are the top dog. Yeah. Right? The old me would have never, ever given those roses to anybody.
No, okay, yeah, right.
Because I felt that I was that guy.
Right.
And, you know, I realized that I laid a lot of foundation down for folks to rap about things that actually matter to them, as opposed to, you know, fucking these bitches and fucking these hoes and that, you know.
Right.
And some of that stuff is fun too, but you almost have to paint it as satirical in order for it to be beneficial for people instead of just being entertainment. And I've always been a satirical person in the sense where I will literally poke fun at the government, corporations, anybody who has power over the oppressed.
Right.
And I'll create, you know, funny little tracks and stuff. I had an album called Children of the Matrix where I took on robotics, AI, you know, anything you could think of as far as dystopian, futuristic, like government tyranny. I took on that album, and lo and behold, that was the album that really blew me up globally.
Oh shit, for real?
Well, I got 26 million audio streams through my DistroKid account from that album specifically.
Yeah.
Let me paint that to you how powerful that album was. Before then, I had 500,000 plays on all my whole discography.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But then this fucking album comes out, and then now when I look at it, I have 26 million audio streams. Yeah. And see, to me, a kid who just wanted to make a CD, and I swear to God, I used to tell people I'm gonna cry when I make my first CD, because that's the bullshit that everybody that cliche shit. Yeah, oh, this is so emotional. I'm gonna cry. I found out that wasn't fucking true. I literally started making mixtapes in high school.
Right.
I don't know if I've ever told this story, but I got my Fruity Loops disc from my radio broadcasting class at Tri-Tech from my teacher Ed Daly, and he got it for the students to use at the school, and I took it home and I put it on my computer, and then I took it to my cousin's house and I put it on his computer, but then I brought it back and I acted like nothing ever fucking happened. But here's the thing, Ed is all-knowing, and that man knew I did that, but he knew that I was gonna do what I was gonna do with it.
Right.
Because he always knew that I had a talent and an ability to just create music and be able to have the passion that doesn't allow this to die, right? And he was a country artist himself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he you know, he was an incredible dude. Like, he was married and stuff, but he had a lot of people who admired him. A lot of gals and stuff that probably admired him too. He was a rock star in the Tri-Cities. I mean, anybody who hears me, they know what I'm talking about, what I'm getting at. But he's the one who taught me how to actually like communicate and speak properly on the microphone so that people could feel my words. And I owe a lot to him in that sense. And the reason I bring that up is because he ran the radio station 88.1. And I never got a song on 88.1.
Oh, no?
Yeah. And I thought to myself, like, how is that? And then I thought to myself, like, oh, it's because you didn't make an effort to get it on there. So that's one of my goals for 2025 is that I'm going to create a record that I'm going to deliver to Tri-Town or to Tri-Tech. And then I'm going to try to get that record on there. Yeah. And the reason being is because I just want to do a full circle moment with him, because he's one of the reasons why I'm still doing this. And he was a radio guy. He had an incredible radio voice, and when he flipped that switch, it was like, oh, that's what professionalism is.
Right, yeah.
You know? And you just seen him like shift into a different character, and it was incredible. So I love that guy, and I bring him up because going back to the Children of the Matrix and having all the success that I have from that, I had my kid I had my kid, and she was getting big, and I had to make a decision. Like, do I take a break from making music so that I can make sure that my kid is getting all the time that she can from me? And that's exactly what I did. I stepped away from a lot of the things that I was doing, and through this, me and her mom, we decided to co-parent. We split up, and then I found myself at a crossroads. The crossroads was really weird because it had me lost, and I didn't know who I was anymore because I allowed myself to change because I thought that maybe music was something that I could walk away from. You know, I was thinking like maybe it's the end of my road and I should just focus on being a parent. But then I thought to myself, like, if you invested so much into something and it became your identity and then you give it away or you let it go when you don't have to, you can modify it so that it's more adjustable for the time period that you exist in.
Yeah.
You're really doing a disservice to you and the people who admire you.
Right.
I know that when I've seen people fall from grace, it really made me feel a certain way.
Yeah.
Like even when some of the most badass people that we love so much.
Yeah, you don't take it personally.
They took it personal when the album starts sucking or when they just quit making music in general. You're like, it's the end of an era.
Yeah.
You know? So I told myself, like, I have to find myself again in music. And that's what Mr. Northwest was really about. Mr. Northwest was my first real project since Children of the Matrix. And what it was me really taking back ownership of who I am and how much I've invested in the Northwest.
Right.
So when you look up Mr. Northwest, you're going to find a whole bunch of motherfuckers who think they're in beauty pageants. And then you're also going to find me.
Yeah.
And that is what I want. I want people to start from square one. I would like to think that that is my first real album. Yeah. Mr. Northwest, and it was produced entirely by my buddy Marswell, who is an incredible producer, incredible father, husband. He works so fucking hard, 50, 60 hours like a lot of us, you know, because I'd be putting in work too. And he's just putting food on the table, and he doesn't get a lot of time to go out there and actually produce these albums that he wants for himself. So when he said, hey man, let's do an album together, I said, fuck yeah, man. Thank you. Like, I appreciate you, like, believing in me. I was like, what do we need? He's like, we just need to get a microphone and we need to get a box to plug the microphone in. And I was like, well, I have the box. And I just happen to have one of those Scarlet, the red ones that everybody seems to have. I have one of those. And then I said, let me just order a mic on Amazon. And he's like, sure. And I was like, which kind? And he's like, just get a USB mic, Audio Technica or something. So it was like a little $100 mic or whatever. We ordered it. We received it. Then the next thing you know, we started cooking. The reason why I started making that album specifically was because Marvin has this habit. It's an incredible... Oh, Marswell. Sorry, Marvin. He has this incredible habit of taking old vocals and building new beats around them.
Nice.
So this guy sends me ADD with this 2022 fucking beat around it.
Oh, okay.
The original ADD is over a Young Lean beat.
Oh, okay.
The Young Lean song is called Oceans, I think, right? But if you remember Young Lean, he was the Swedish rapper who kind of blew up like A$AP Rocky, in the sense that he blew up with like the internet culture, promethazine, like all the drug shit that was going on back then, which I do not condone and I do not support. And he was just a real mystery to kids because he was from Sweden. He was wearing ski masks before everybody was wearing them.
Oh shit! Yeah.
He was riding jet skis, like, and the dude was literally like, what do they call that? Wavecore or something. He had his own fucking sound, his own style. That he gave birth to a lot of different fucking rappers. But I did a couple records over his beat. The other one was OPM. Okay. Right?
Yeah.
So Marv made a whole brand new beat around the lyrics from OPM. So if you hear ADD and you hear OPM in 2000 or 2022, 2024, you're listening to a song that was recorded, or the lyrics that were first laid down in 2013.
Oh shit.
It goes back that far.
Yeah.
Those records were back when I was Bowser Vic.
Yeah.
Because if you know me, you know that Tory North is something that came about in 2012, I believe. 2012 going into 2013. I was initially Bowser Vic as Tory North because I was trying to segue into the new name, right? But the Bowser Vic name is my battle rap name. It's like my first rap name when I was in the hard hitters. So it's like a classic legendary name. And it's funny too because a lot of people have a lot of cultural cachet with that name still. Because if you bring up Bowser Vic, a lot of people will start to chime in about the good memories that we had because we used to do a lot of house parties. We used to do a lot of battling.
Yeah.
I remember my record was crazy. It was like 64 and like 4 or something. I was really fucking throwing these rappers around left and right. But then I started meeting real rappers, and and I started getting fucked up in these battles. I mean, I remember I went up against Z from Firing Squad.
Oh shit, yeah.
And he chewed me up like the fucking piranha that he is, right? And to be honest, man, I just respected him so much that I just I didn't even want to go, you know, because what are you gonna do besides try to throw personal attacks at somebody that you respect, and next thing you know, you can't even really network or collaborate with them, right? So I was just like, I got a lot of respect for you. I'm not gonna go.
It's not worth it to take a cheap shot at somebody in a rap battle to ruin a potentially very fruitful career. You guys have made a bunch of dope songs. Since then.
Yeah, and he's an incredible guy. One of my favorites, man.
Shout out to Firing Squad.
Dickles and him and Redro.
I love Redro. I remember when I first complimented him. Sure it was Facebook. I was like, man, you sound like a grimy John Legend, but I mean that in the best way possible.
I bet he loved that shit.
We've been talking about working together ever since, and this was like, I don't know, 12 years ago.
I love that Redro. He's so dope. Like in person, if he likes you, he's gonna let you know he likes you.
Yeah.
I remember one time he'd be like, "This motherfucker right here is dope." And I was like, bro, I feel the same way about you. You know what I'm saying? He's just a very likable guy. I bought merch from him. Like I don't really buy merch from people because I just don't think about it, you know. And then one time I was just like, yeah, give me a shirt. And he sent it over to me. Like, real good businessman. You know what I'm saying? So I love to see that they're really putting it together and making some moves for themselves. And Dickles is an incredible guy too, man. One of the best graphic designers in the Northwest. And he's a whole record label in himself. I'm telling you, Z and Dickles and Redro are literally a whole record label in themselves. Oh, yeah. So shout out to them. And I believe they're on Blockstar now, which is the X-rated record label. If you remember the OG X-rated?
Yeah. Not a pornographic record label, but a record label by the rapper X-rated.
Well, actually, if you listen to Dickles' album, it's kind of like porn. Shout out to Dickles. He was choking his partner and slapping their ass, and he was having foreplay on the EP. I apologize to any children that are listening to this if they do. But what I get to get back to the OGs, to the battling. Okay, so I remember I battled. There was this rapper from Spokane because there was a battle league called High Noon that was started by my friend Civic.
Oh, I remember High Noon.
Yeah, High Noon. It got a lot of reputation because Civic really took a hands-on approach to this thing, and he was the battle. I mean, he battled everybody, right? But he gave me an opportunity to go out there and perform or to battle at one of their events, and he set me up against a young man named 3D. And I remember when I battled 3D, it was at a skate park in Richland. And this guy had a lot of charisma, but I knew that he had probably only been really rapping for maybe a few years. And, I apologize if that wasn't the case. But when we went at it, I remember I just had a couple of lines that were too much for him. And I recorded it with my own cameraman because they were trying to charge me for the footage of it, which is a good business model. And I don't really talk down about that, but I took matters into my own hand, and that's why everybody saw that battle. I put it on YouTube, and I don't know where the fuck it went. I think it should still be out there, but unfortunately it's not. But the battles that is still out there is the one where I got fucking annihilated. But I got annihilated because I went too fucking crazy in one direction, and the dude just kept it fun. I mean, if you keep it fun, you're going to be more likable, and then the crowd's going to deem you the winner every single time. You just have to be the cooler guy. You don't have to be the most intense fucking serious person, and that's what I learned a little too late.
Or have the most dirt. Like some of these fucking rap battles, it's like I mean, not just in that league, but in general, it seems like people do like fucking private investigations on people. People call fucking Nardwuar and get all the dirt, and like, because they'll be like, oh yeah, you're a bum father, and your fucking baby mama says your dick is small, and this and that. And I'm like, yeah, bro. Who told you all this?
Or they take attacks on people's family members and things of that nature. There was a battle that happened at what was it? It was probably one of those lyrical lounge, lyricist lounge things, or it was like the breakdancing competition where Civic was a part of it. Yeah.
Where Roque won.
Yeah. There was a moment in there with, I think it was CLB. I think that's his name, CLB, right? What's his name? I think it's Caleb Brown, right? But CLB is like his rap name, right? He threw the Tri-Town Get Down, so he's a pretty good businessman. But you know, he's a pretty decent rapper too. But when it came to the battling, I think that he was too focused on being extreme about like Roque's family or his child, and I thought it was very distasteful, and I thought that that's the reason, one of the big reasons why he didn't win, and it just told me that I'm too old to be trying to battle people and trying to get into that realm, because if people start talking about like my kid or my family, like I don't know how I would take that.
But that also is like. Yeah, it's one of those, I guess, especially people or dudes who don't have kids, maybe don't get that. Oh, yeah. That like, bro, you have no idea. And yeah, you could say all's fair in a rap battle, but then again, this is the real world, and you will get checked properly. And yeah, I remember, they came close to like, you know, having to separate them or make sure they didn't cross a certain line.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Like literally a line in the ground. They're like, don't cross this and get close to the other dude.
Yeah, and my guy Roque is such a classy individual that he knows how to defuse and de-escalate these situations on himself.
He fucking handled
100%
that fucking battle, the whole thing, every round.
And he left with that trophy, rightfully so. So I just know that realm wasn't necessarily where I wanted to stay at, but it was important in the beginning of the journey, because imagine having a whole rap career where you never did that. And then you always wondering like, I wonder what it would have been like to test myself. Yeah. Another thing was that I was a freestyle rapper, so I thought that I can just go in and freestyle myself to a victory.
Right.
Unfortunately, when it comes to battling, you have to have some premeditated preparation.
Yeah, you got to be ready for battle, man.
Because if you don't, then you're going to end up on the short end of the stick. And as we know, people get beat to death with the sticks, you know, when it comes to this stuff. But I want to ask you, on the topic of battling, have you ever seen a battle, maybe, you know, URL, Smack, you know the more popular YouTube battles, like Loaded Lux, you know, all these. Have you ever seen a battle where you're like, holy shit, that was such a crazy, like, how can two humans do what these guys just put on as far as a display of skill? Have you ever seen anything like that specifically?
I mean, as someone who tried to rap and could never freestyle, I am in awe of anybody who can do that, you know, on the spot, battle or not, you know. But yeah, like I said, I do like when it is more fun and clever and not so personal and biting. Just because, I mean, also like I don't need to be watching BET and know that this guy, you know, whatever dirt or he's got a record or whatever this guy dug up on him. Yeah. Like, I mean, that is cool in your investigative skills, but when it comes to just, you know, if you didn't have all that dirt on him, what would you use your rhyme skills for?
Exactly.
And the guys who do that, who will take it at face value or do like what he's wearing, or, you know, or tear him apart in a way that is cerebral and personal, but not like, again, kind of hacky, and you're just like really trying to tear somebody down as opposed to win. Because again, it's just a fucking rap battle. I don't want anybody to lead this and fucking like relapse or fucking go home and, you know,
no,
self-harm or feel less than because I brought up, hey, your dad never loved you and he left your mom when you were 3. And this is just because I wanted to win a fucking $50 rap battle, you know?
And that's a very serious thing, and I definitely don't laugh because I think that's, but I do think it's funny how dramatic rappers can be about these kind of things too as well. But to bring that up, I wonder if I have a hypocritical thought about the attacking kids and family members in battling, but when I listen to the Kendrick Lamar and Drake battle, and I hear how both of them talked about, you know, family and children and such it wasn't necessarily in a disrespectful way, but more of a like an accessory kind of way. Like, I'm gonna get at your father by using you as an accessory. So it wasn't necessarily like I'm gonna blow your kid's head off type shit. Like, that's more what I'm talking about. Or you look like you dropped your kid on its head. You know, saying stupid shit like that. You know, that's what burns me up. But when it's battle stuff where it's like, hey, Adonis, I'm gonna be your father because your dad doesn't grow up. You know? That doesn't elicit the same thought.
Right. Well, again, there's a level of artistry, you know, that has gone into that, and it's not just, oh, I dug up dirt. Because both those guys dig up dirt on each other, but the way they packaged it, I think they could have done it again without the dirt. You know, because they have to with just doing reads of each other. You know, they have enough material.
Yes.
Like Kendrick would be like, hey man, I've been paying attention to your career. It looks like this and this and that, you know. And he did do that. He, you know, but then again, on the scale that they were doing it, and I don't know who opened the door first to family members, but it's usually whenever that starts, it's kind of, as soon as one person does it and it's ongoing, the doors are just open, and it's kind of a unspoken understanding that, okay, we're going there now.
Yeah.
That's a little different as opposed to like, I talked to this guy's ex-wife and got all the dirt on him, on Facebook before I showed up and fucking humiliated him.
Yeah.
For fucking YouTube clout 10 years ago, you know?
Because there's no coming back from that kind of stuff. When you start to reveal people's like, their inner demons or their dirty closet, their laundry or whatever on public forums, there's no coming back from that. You can't really expect for people to be like, oh, it was hip hop.
Yeah.
Like it's different when you're in the streets and you have a difference of opinion with somebody and you have to like collide with them in like a physical fight, because a lot of times you can look at that person and be like, I respect you as a man because I whooped your ass or you whooped my ass and we're still standing.
Right.
But nowadays a lot of motherfuckers are quick to run and grab a gun or a weapon of some sort, and that's what makes it so that you can't have those kind of resolutions or so. Yeah. But getting back to the Kendrick and Drake thing, I've studied this thing very, very immensely like everybody else has, but I was trying to think of like what was the situation in which started this whole thing, and I thought, okay, let's do this. Let's go back to the first time that we even see these two collaborating, and when we do that, what we see is Take Care, the interlude where Kendrick has his own fucking song on Drake's album.
Oh, really?
So what this tells me is that Drake may have actually considered Kendrick his favorite rapper at the time. Because you do not let somebody have that kind of a look unless you really admire and appreciate what they do.
For real. Yeah.
Because let me take it back to Hometown with Roque. Mm-hmm. With Roque, I said, hey man, you have a really great ability to write and your hunger is insane. Mm-hmm. I want you to write the hook and the verse. And then I'm going to come through with my verse, right? And when I did that, I was trying to see what he was made of, and I wanted to see the direction that he took that record. Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad that I did, because man, that record right there is a favorite for a lot of folks, right? But what it did is it really made me say, okay, now you're gonna have to compete with somebody who you think is the best rapper in Tri-Cities right now. Right. So you're gonna test yourself right now to see if you're gonna get Eminem Renegade on your own.
Right, yeah.
Right? But I said, no. I like this guy. Yeah. And I don't want to make it some weird fucking
Drake contest.
Yeah, or like a Drake and Jay-Z kind of like, I'm cool with you, I'm not cool with you, subliminal this. Yeah. I wanted to be 100% transparent and helpful and resourceful to the youth, so they could always be like, oh, that's Unc. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's fam. He doesn't have nefarious thoughts about me or my career. And if I do misinterpret something that he's saying, it ain't about me.
Right.
I want to be clear and open with people. When I show up in your face with this gracious attitude that I have for you, you're not going to turn around and it's not going to change. I am not a two-faced person. I'm not a snake. And I wanted to make sure that I got that out there, because, a lot of people might have misconceptions about how someone is because they might be a shrewd business person or, be black and white with everything, because who knows, maybe they might be on the spectrum or something, right? There's a lot of nuances to why people are the way that they are. So I wanted to make sure that there was no issue like that when it came to our competition. Yeah, we could have competition, but it's like two homies working out in the fucking gym. Right. I'm gonna throw plates on for you. I'm gonna have to take some plates off for me.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I took some plates off on Hometown, and I told Roque and the homie Loud about this already, because I think it's an interesting story. Mm-hmm. I knew that I was not gonna be able to bring it to the level that he brought it to on that beat. So what I said is, Marv, I need you to cut the beat and then make a different beat at the end of it. Let's switch the beat up. One song, two beats.
Right.
And then I'm going to bring my style. I'm going to drip my sauce on that shit. And thank God that I did that, because it created one of the coolest fucking records.
Right.
Because Hometown now becomes home and town.
Oh, I see.
It's two records put together.
Yeah.
Because his perspective, if you listen to the record, he's talking about how he's dying breed. He's ready to get it, whether it means his life or even yours. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the level that Roque was taking it at the time.
Right.
It was life or death for him to really get his foot in the door. And I'm like, God damn, that reminds me of me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I got electrified when I see that. But then when you hear Town, you hear a story of a person who's kind of luring you in with this kind of materialistic kind of bullshit in the beginning. It's like I'm trying to like be trendy and catchy in the beginning, but then I tell this cryptic story about a fan who used to buy merch, but now she's buying perks. And how she ends up dying before she's 33 because crystal meth had her in a fucking grip. Right? So I tell this story on Hometown because my hometown that I love so much is beautiful and it's an amazing place to raise kids, but there is the other side of it too that people don't talk about.
Right.
The homelessness, the drug abuse, the violence that happens in the streets, all of these things. And what I wanted to do was bring a little bit of light to the darkness when it comes to that, because I don't believe that we should glamorize without showing both sides of the story. I think that's a reason why a lot of people get harsh criticism when it comes to the music they deliver. Like, let's talk about Jay-Z. Jay-Z, when he came into the game, he was able to give a transformative style that people used as a blueprint. Because he showed you that you could come from Marcy Project and slaying crack on the corner and out mental everybody that's out there to the point where you elevate yourself out of the streets, and to do it without any bullet holes. 50 did the exact same thing, but he almost lost his life in front of his grandma's house. So these guys in New York, they laid out the blueprint for us out here to really do this in the Northwest. Well, I can speak for myself when I say that, because look at how Jay-Z was moving in the very beginning of his career. How is that not an independent artist?
Right.
He was paying for his own music videos. He was paying to put himself on the radio. He was spending money to do all the things that the majors were doing because the majors would not sign him. They would not give him a deal. They didn't understand who the fuck this guy was.
Right.
That's my story. I've never been able to get a record contract outside of Illuminati and the Alumni Records. They saw something in your boy and nobody could see. And I thank Illuminati because he really did open a lot of doors for me. And he taught me how to move and operate in a lot of ways. And that's my brother. But he was a Jay-Z figure himself. I mean, his name's Jay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He built a whole empire and created a legion of people that would die for what he put around his neck, that alumni chain. And I remember us going on tours and doing so many different fucking cities, states, staying at people's houses, sleeping on the floor, sleeping in cars, like all sorts of fun shit. And I would never give that up for anything, man. Did you ever? You were a performing artist yourself. Did you ever play any shows out of town, maybe like in a tour like kind of capacity?
Not necessarily a tour. I mean, I've been in quite a few bands, and we've played, I'd say, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours is the farthest I've driven for a gig. Oh, no. Actually, no. I drove 5 hours from Bellingham to Tri-Cities to play the Mid-Columbia Pride Festival with two of my girly bands back in the day.
Oh.
I had two different bands, one that was down here, one that was based up there. And we were both invited and got paid to play at the... where the Hapo stage is now. There wasn't a stage there at the time.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, it was that same park before, Yeah.
I love that.
We got paid and drove 5 hours, and that was that. But that's not necessarily a tour thing. I mean, a lot of times you're just lucky to get a paid gig.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, we weren't getting paid for shows initially, so we had to throw the whole show and then sell the tickets for us to make any money. And then we also had merch too. Our first show that we ever did was 2009. It was at a house party that my buddies threw, because my buddies were in a band called the Shyless, which is now called Mind of My Own or Mind Like Mine or something like that. Okay. And I don't know if they're still working together. I know that the members are still making music. Like Aaron McKinney is in a band called Cetra, I believe. And Bijan is also in that band. And Jason King is somebody who was in that band too, and I believe he's still making music. They gave us a chance. They gave us an opportunity to perform in front of a crowd, and it just so happened to be a house show crowd. And one of the things that I remember about that was how cool it was to be an underground hip-hop artist that was friends with metal and punk rock and like metalcore, grindcore like bands. There was really nobody who was doing this. And this was like 10, 15 years before like Lil Uzi Vert would put like metal bands on his album and stuff like Bring Me the Horizon. And like a lot of these guys who party like a rock star and all that bullshit, like that was started in the underground. And we experienced a lot of that initially because rock and hip hop has always had a relationship. If you go back to Aerosmith and Run DMC, you remember that they made a song called Walk This Way. And that song broke down the doors because Run DMC was the hottest thing in hip hop, signed to Def Jam because, you know, Reverend Run's brother was Russell Simmons. And then also Aerosmith was like one of the biggest fucking rock bands at the time. You know what I'm saying?
Even before that, Rick Rubin, a lot of his production on Run DMC had a lot of fucking rock guitars.
Yeah.
I think they sampled like Van Halen back then and shit too.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because the kings of rock.
Yeah.
There was a whole thing. And I wonder what the mentality was behind that.
I'm sorry. I started singing Rock Box, not King of Rock. But go ahead.
What was the mentality behind that? Was it like we want to get a crossover audience because this hip hop thing is still very new? And maybe it was an attempt to get college kids to get into it.
Right. I mean, I think hip hop always being something that literally borrowed and remixed everything. You know, it was only a matter of time before. I mean, even now, there has been so many stepchildren of hip hop.
Yeah.
To where, like, go back to our generation and the big mumble rap thing, where that's the first time I realized, oh, we're getting older, and now we're the old guys. Like, oh, that's not real music. That's not real hip hop.
Right.
Why is his hair blue? Why are his pants tight? You know.
I'll tell you what. I've always had an open mind about the mumble rappers.
Right.
Because I've been able to pick out the things that I do like about it. Like, for example, a lot of the production, I've always been a sucker for 808s.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of those beats were really fucking good. If you listen to XXX or Juice WRLD and all these guys that came out at a certain point, their SoundCloud, their production was so good that no wonder the kids were liking the shit, right?
Yeah.
So I really liked what they had going on. The thing that really lost me when it came to it was those guys who were obviously after a bag. So they figured like my charisma, my fashion sense, and everything else is going to be good enough, and I'm just going to, have a seizure on the microphone for 3 to 4 minutes every track, and that's going to be good enough for these people. But
I mean, that comes with any wave, man. Any wave. There's let's take it back to disco, right? Disco was a hot dope thing, driven by the subcultures and the countercultures, right?
Yep.
But then eventually you get like disco duck, where it's like corny fucking, like anybody making, because disco's a hot thing right now, so everybody's got to do it. Just like how there's fucking trap beats in your fucking cereal commercials now, just because it became commodified, or it was the wave. And that's, in every genre, every wave, that happens. There's the people who originate it, there's the people who continue it with respect, and those who are just gonna take anything they can from it because it's the hot thing. Or like, fucking Joe Pesci made a rap album in the 80s, like
that's crazy. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Hip hop was the thing that everybody could buy into before it was really popular. I mean, look at Will Smith being the first Grammy nominated rapper. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, Will Smith
didn't show that shit on TV.
I'm gonna tell you what. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Didn't he win a Grammy, or was he just nominated? I think.
No, I think they won, but
they won.
It wasn't on television.
But what I noticed Will's actually always been a great rapper. I think he just got like a cornball sort of thing attached to him because he always kind of put himself out there as some sort of goody two shoes kind of individual, right? So when the whole like Jada Pinkett thing happened, that was like a rebrand of sorts. You know what I'm saying? Because he was really trying to show that he was leaving the person that people thought he was.
Right.
Because he was willing to sacrifice his movie career for this new freedom that he thought he was gaining. And I think that there is something to it because I just saw that he's been collaborating frequently with Joyner Lucas. And I think that this is very interesting because Joyner Lucas is was a lyrical rapper that we thought was on par to maybe become, competition for Kendrick Lamar. Joyner Lucas.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But he went a completely different route when he started to just diss mumble rappers. And then he got into a battle with Tory Lanez. And then he saw that Tory Lanez is actually a very formidable fucking rapper.
Really?
Yes. They went back and forth a couple times, and Tory Lanez, sometimes you'll hear that he's the winner of that.
I missed that one completely.
And I'm a huge fan of Tory Lanez because I've always seen the versatility that he brought, and he's from Toronto, so I thought it was very interesting that Drake was the biggest rapper in the game, and that he was ignoring the fuck out of this rapper named Tory Lanez who was coming up, because he knew that if he had to go at it with Tory, that it was going to be a big fucking problem for him.
Yeah.
So he didn't give Tory any credit until he needed him, because after XXXTentacion died, that's when you seen him go on tour with Tory Lanez. They went to Europe, and guess what the tour's name was called? The Assassination Vacation.
Oh.
Right after XXX died.
Yeah.
Do you see why Drake has a lot of people coming for him?
I mean, yeah.
This guy has managed to fuck himself and his name over in every aspect.
Right.
From messing with people's girlfriends, wives, to making it look suspect of messing with people who are underage.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. And this isn't a Drake bashing session, but I am a purist when it comes to my music, and I think that there is no competition when it comes to those two, Kendrick and Jay-Z. Or not Jay-Z, I'm sorry, Drake. I'm sorry, you know I'm getting a little tired when I start to misuse names. But stepping away from the battle, because it is on everybody's mind still, because Kendrick is a fucking chess guru master, and he knows how to really extend a moment. I was thinking about how I'm going to approach my music going into 2025. And I have been having a tug of war with myself, because it's almost as if I'm trying to purge something from my system. I've thought a lot about really airing out the people who have been on my mind in a negative way.
Okay.
I
hope I'm not on that
list. No. Rappers and primarily rappers. I've had fallouts with folk, and I don't get to really state my grievances.
Right.
So I've tried to reach out to people. I've tried to squash things. I've tried to make it so it's not awkward when we're in the same locations. And being that I don't get that same energy back, I think that maybe I should address things on record. But then I tell myself, like, no, you're doing what Kendrick did. You're doing Gemini mode, and you're a Pisces. So you should really just go with the flow. And there's just something about that fucking part. It's almost like I can't bon voyage off this shit until I set the record straight about some things that people got me horribly fucked up about.
Right.
When it comes to these rappers out here. There's a few of them. There's a handful of them. I can make an EP and take care of it all.
Okay.
And I might have to do that, but I know that the goal at the end of the day is for us to grow and heal, and to teach the youth that it's not the answer to have conflicts that turn violent, and where people die, and where families grieve, but to keep it on wax. And that's always been my thing.
Yeah.
If we can duke it out on wax, you don't mention family, you don't mention things that are personal in that regard, I don't have to. And I really beg people to not make me do that. Right. Because if we are gonna get surgical, just know I have sharper tools than you. And that's always how I've been, right? So I'm battling with myself. People know me. They know me to be a positive individual, but I have this in my heart and soul. And I don't know how to purge it. I almost think that it's some sort of ancestral DNA thing. Right. That maybe at one point ensured reproduction and protection and security for those who are around me on a tribal level. Or maybe even a caveman level. You know, it's so deep in there. You know, where you're like, I could live a really nice, comfortable life if I just don't go out there and do that one thing.
Right, yeah.
But you know that one thing is going to be like a high that you would, like an adrenaline rush that you could never fucking compare to, right? That's what this feels like. And I didn't want to turn this podcast in that, but I want to speak my mind, and I want to speak my soul. And I want those out there to know that if you're a rapper and you do want to play this wax game with beef, I would say my name, and then you're gonna see if I deem it worthy of response. See, that's a trick pony, because it's free promotion for me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
My question is nowadays, are subliminals not a thing, or is that a way for you to purge these feelings without necessarily kicking up dust in somebody's face?
I like that you said that. Yes. It doesn't have to get personal. It could be subliminal, and those who know, they know. And that's what I'm thinking about doing. I'm not going to drop any names or anything because I'm not going to give anybody any clout that they don't deserve, right?
Right.
But it's one of those things. I have to purge my soul from it. And we're going to see in the next couple months if I do that. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to tell you one thing. This podcast is going to continue to do what it's doing, and it's going to continue to grow because this is my vessel. This is where we're going into the future. We're going to be speaking, and we're going to be creating content verbally and communicating on the platform. And I think that the future holds a lot of brightness for us because we're going to really continue to create highways and roads and bridges that connect the Northwest as opposed to tearing them down. But sometimes you got to check your brothers, and I think I might have to do that real soon.
I mean, I guess healthy accountability is never a bad thing, you know? Yeah. And I mean, we should be, I know conflict sells more, but as adults or people who want to communicate and thrive, conflict resolution is very important.
Absolutely. And I think that once these grievances are met, then that's when it would be more interesting to have podcasts with these folk and to kind of go through these things in an analytical way and then kind of shake hands and squash beef in that regard because I want to help these artists even if they don't like me still.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's what it is. It's like people see me getting older and they might think like, oh, he doesn't got it no more. But that's the funny thing about that is I'm only 36 years old. So if 36 years old is washed up for something that doesn't take too much physical fucking skill,
then
we're playing. And I'm in the wrong game anyways, right? So that's just a little bit about the competitive nature of who I am, and I love this shit so much, man. I'm writing a book right now. I'm writing a book about my life with hip hop and all the little interesting stories that I've ever been in when it came to hip hop. And the thing about hip hop is that it saved my life, man. It really made me a better person, and it really woke me up to the realities of the world from a young age. You know what was interesting about hip hop for me is that it was like the internet before the internet.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because the way that I was able to get the information so fast about things that were happening all around the world, it was just incredible. I was a young kid talking about things that only people on the East Coast were talking about. Mm-hmm. And people, for the longest time, people would be like, yeah, Victor's nice, but I don't know what the fuck he's getting at. Because a lot of times my head was in hip hop. And if you didn't have the frequency for it, shit, you didn't know what the fuck I was getting at.
Right.
Even to this day, a lot of people don't know how I communicate on a personal level, but when they hear me on the podcast, they can connect the dots. Because sometimes you need a little bit of time to process what's coming at you in person, And that's the thing too. My fans have always been, or my supporters, I don't like to use the word fans, have always been a reflection of me. Mm-hmm. Because they see a bit of me in them, and I see a bit of vice versa. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think that in order for us to grow as an audience and as a performer, that we have to be able to be vulnerable when the world is watching. And for me to show the nuance of my emotional spectrum, then you know that I'm a human being, and you know that I care about things deeply. So when something bothers me, it's for a reason. And if it means that I have to put myself on display and be out of character for something, I hope that it's worth it, because I know that it's gonna feel fucking good to do so. But yeah, we're gonna cut this podcast a little bit short, and the reason being is because this was supposed to be more of an introduction to what's coming, and we dipped our feet into a few conversation topics that I thought were pretty interesting. But I just want to remind you guys, if you don't have the Tory Talk podcast on Instagram, you need to follow Tory Talk Pod on Instagram, and also follow the Tory Talk Podcast Facebook. Because those are going to be the two platforms where I'm letting everybody know that there's a new podcast out. And if you have my Snapchat, of course, I'll put updates there too as well. That's Tory Northwest. And I think I might do a Telegram or a Discord, or even just use that Instagram channel to make sure that, we're building and cultivating a group that's giving me input and giving me ideas for some of the podcast topics that we're going to be going into, because this is going to be a very interactive podcast. Going to be reading comment sections, going to be taking suggestions, going to be bringing up topics, going to be bringing on guests that the audience want to see. So I want to thank Miguel for being here, and I also want to plug Miguel's podcast. I'll let you go ahead and plug.
The Tri-Cities Mixtape. We are a music-based podcast. Every Wednesday, we'll either give you a playlist episode featuring Pacific Northwest musicians of all genres, or interviews with local people who are, part of the scene, but not just musicians. We've interviewed journalists and venue owners. There's a young man named Ulysses. He runs Alconi Media, which is like terrestrial radio stations, and we're going to be interviewing him soon. And yeah, just anybody who is contributing to music and culture and art in the Tri-Cities. And also, and I got some cool co-hosts, and we just we share favorite songs and do our thing and share a lot of music, a lot of new music.
And one last thing that I'm going to say too is that I got a lot of things planned for the new format. We're going to have conversation-based podcasts like so, and we're going to also have some interviews that turn into just straight up conversations and things of that nature, where there's no really guardrails, and we can talk about whatever we want from any topic, and we can segue from this to that, and there won't be too much formality in that sense. I'll bring my friends like David V, who is an incredible artist, David V35. If you know him, he's a painter. I think he painted the mural over there at Picante. And he also painted the building that was the old Roasters building over there on Columbia Center Boulevard. If you look, there's like a woman's face on the side of the building. So he's an incredible artist, and he's got some very unique stories about him growing up in Mexico, and also he's got some interesting things to talk about when it comes to aliens. So that's going to be a fun conversation. We'll bring Roque on to the podcast and catch up with him and see how fatherhood is for him, because he just had a baby a year ago or a few years back.
He was actually my first interview in podcasting, him and Loud.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was working for the Shanty guys, but the guys couldn't make the interview, and I didn't want to cancel on these guys. So I ended up doing the interview myself. That's kind of how I fell into podcasting, was interviewing fucking Roque. Yeah.
I love that, because my first podcast, Roque's was like one of the first ones, right? But my first one was with my buddy Tyson, and Tyson is a retired veteran who also is he was a pro MMA fighter, and he's also a barber, right? And he's got so much information and self-optimization. When I talk to him, I'm just always amazed at the stuff he's into now, whether it's isolation tanks and ice baths and things of that nature, all that fun stuff. So I'm going to double back on the old podcast, and I'm going to bring on old guests, and we're going to reevaluate some of the conversations that we've had and see how far we've come since the beginning of the pandemic. But as a sign off, I just wanted to let you guys know, man, if you're listening to this, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a good evening, good day, good morning whenever you're hearing this, and just keep on keeping on and keep the dream alive. Make sure that you live your life for you. You're the main character. This movie's your life, and don't let nobody put you in a box, because you already know those boxes go in the motherfucking ground. And this has been Tri-Town Tory. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back very soon. One love.